I mean, we were talking off camera as well, but before, and so, we're talking about Property Mark, and
Yeah.
so to be a member of an organisation like that, you're talking about the way that David has really put himself out there.
He has,
you know,
yes.
fighting for the best things. That's useful to be part of an organisation like that. To be,
I think so. I mean, I think it's important that standards are constantly evaluated and raised. And I think David's worked really hard for the organisation and for the
well, he's
members.
been in and out. What's it, Downing Street more than Boris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are always a few gripes with any
An organisation like that.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Recently, our client money protection costs went up by a factor of 4, which I found difficult to stomach.
Yeah.
And the cost of membership is pretty expensive. You know, I get a phone call, are you using your member benefits? No. Sorry, what? I mean, it's a difficult one. I think the work that he does for the members in terms of lobbying, and I think that's really what they should be focused on, rather than these club benefit stuff. That's nonsense.
Yeah, okay, it's interesting. So one of the things that we've, as I said, thank you very much for joining the kerfuffle empire, as it were.
It's an honour,
That's it, read that out, well done. Clearly one of the things that, I mean, it's all about obviously trying to give agents as much help as possible, give them resources to help their decisions with suppliers. And so one of the first things we did was do a survey out to our clients, and you kindly filled that in. And I think we'll go into a couple of the things in there in a bit more detail. I did say again, and I say this on many times, that you are absolutely unique, and I meant that from the bottom of my heart. And I'll tell you the reason why is because the first question I asked in there was, total, how many suppliers you actually use, within your business. So asking somebody to make a gut feel on that. The next one was actually to detail them. And in every single case, and this is over about 600 offices now, every one of them underestimated how much they had done and came back to me and said, bloody hell, I couldn't really believe it was that many. Yeah. Apart from you, my friend.
Yeah. Now, I went back and redid
You did do it.
I have to declare.
Brilliant. It's that sort of honesty that I'm after here. So that's great. You get a kerfuffle mark of
yes,
but it is interesting, isn't it? And was that the same?
I was way under. You know, the original number I put down was 5 or 6 under.
Yeah.
The
Do you know what the actual average so far across the board has been? It's been 13 suppliers they've thought they're using, and 20 is 50% out there.
Yeah.
I found that staggering. And bearing in mind, this is just estate agency specific suppliers, so not things like telephones, utilities and everything else. And I think you were talking about as well. You expect to kind of, even though it's obviously it's still a challenging market, you expect to pay about the same on suppliers this year going ahead.
Yes. Yeah, I can see no reason why we would.
If you go for another, it'll probably be at the expense of one of the existing, or you'll get.
It depends. I mean, I think this is what's exciting about what you're offering to me, is that because the whole industry is moving so fast, that 10 years ago it was relatively easy to stay in touch with the changes, the new suppliers, what new prop tech bit of shiny kit was really good, and
because there's only a couple launching every year.
Yeah, that's right. And you had time to sort of sit and wait and think, well, okay, let's see how that goes before. Now, if you don't get involved with good stuff as soon as it's while it's beta testing, really, if you're not in there early doors, you're either paying through the nose for it, or
because they've seen the value, then they
exactly.
So there's that's an interesting angle there, isn't it? As we've called it our Trailblazer program or whatever else, but people who are willing to say, look, I understand you'll have a beta product. We see the value in this, but of course we want to be reciprocated for giving you all that useful feedback.
Well, we were lucky enough to be early adopters with Good Lord, and had we've helped them a lot develop their stuff, but they've been really flexible and put a lot of resources into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
And I mean, we'll talk to David later on, who's
Yes.
your number two here as well. But I mean, talking about, because of the nature of, it is very feast and famine, isn't it? Or in terms of the activity, what was the number that you were processing? Was it 150 different tenancies at one time? Or?
yeah, 150 in a couple of weeks in the peak time of student and HMO.
So
lets.
all that organisation, and as to do it, I think you said, and David was talking about, without good Lord, was,
Yeah,
so,
because they're all HMOs, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenants. So you need guarantors. I mean, it's literally thousands of, and Good Lord's been brilliant for that.
excellent, that's good to hear.
Save me. I wouldn't tell Good Lord this.
Of course not.
Save me
Wink,
1.5 members of staff.
Really? Is that
I reckon Good Lord is.
See, this is the interesting thing. One of the things that I am trying to maintain a balance is I want to represent obviously the agents, but I do want to also represent the suppliers, and not least because what we call the right move effect. Know what the right move ROI effect is. Nobody wants to tell right move actually how well they do for them, because they suspect that it's not going to be a 20% price increase, it's going to be a 30%.
Yeah.
But what the bad thing there is that actually it means that this feedback, actually honest feedback, isn't given to other suppliers.
Yeah.
So you will always, and then you ask these suppliers, well, what's your ROI? And they say, kind of don't really know.
No.
So it means that everyone's operating in this obfuscated kind of world, isn't it? You can't make the judgment. So
Yeah, well, we've always tried to be, part of our USP, ethical lettings. That's,
yeah,
we've tried to be as honest as we can with everyone, and I think, to be fair, it is valued by suppliers.
yeah.
Feedback.
You are, and I know this because obviously we obviously never managed to actually get you, but absolutely there were some, in the way that Uber, you rate the Uber driver. There was a rating in reverse, isn't there?
Yes.
So there are, let's just say, high maintenance clients.
Yeah.
That by all means go into them, but know what you're dealing with.
Well, one of my daughter's friends now cannot use Uber.
Because literally,
Because the drivers have made sure that no one picks her up.
there's another story off camera there. I want to find out how did it go down to that degree. But yeah,
But I mean, I think
I defend my 4.76 score very, very. It's like the eBay sort of score of old, isn't it? So yeah, okay. But that's a nice point that as well. And one of the things you did talk about there is we are hoping that by being able to, as I said, I want to represent the agents. But if agents just go and literally say just drive them to the core in terms of prices, what actually happens there is it works against you. Because I know myself is somebody who thinks they're being very clever negotiating will drive the cost down to the degree that the supplier starts taking out elements of the service. And then that's just, as I said, it's counterproductive.
the classic example is recruitment companies. Everyone expects to negotiate the fee. I've had a opposite effect. I said, look, I want to pay you your top fee.
Yeah.
I only want the
But don't
very
show me
best-
all the,
I only want the very best stuff. And it, touch wood, it's worked for us.
Okay. All you recruiters on the kerfuffle website. It's cool. I was promising about stopping the amount of calls due to our members, but it's a good point, isn't it? You'll ultimately be willing to pay,
Yeah.
pay what what the
I
fair fee.
think yes, that's right. And I think by not, I remember when I first met you and you were on the repeat stand, I went down.
Bloody hell! That was the only time I was.
Yeah.
Maybe you sure the stand? Do you mean the stand?
Maybe you dragged me there? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Did it have loads of drinks behind it? Because you're getting confused again.
I was asking everyone, we were looking at different software, but I was like, how much money do you put into research and development?
Yeah.
And at that time, yours was the strongest.
Yeah.
You were putting more in.
Well, at least what I claimed it was.
Yeah. No, I think.
Did you see me go for the random number generator, which I've used all my life? But yeah, I think it tells a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, and so we want, if working with good, Good Lord's a good example. If you're working with good tech and you know that they're investing properly in next level, it's going to be sustainable.
I think so. Just to show just how willing I am to accept ideas and steal them as well. That's a great, actually. On the kerfuffle website when we have that A to Z there.
Yeah.
I think actually to have a if you're happy enough to talk about it, what is your R&D budget there as a percentage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because actually that gives a real sign, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And okay, people could go in there and just make up a number, but then you will be held to that, won't you? Because you
Yes,
said,
that's
if
right.
you're out there claiming 40% and you don't see an update in 2 years,
Yeah.
you know, you're going to get mercilessly mocked, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. Good point.
And one of the things I think, you mentioned there the challenges again. So we asked people in that survey the biggest concerns with suppliers or issues that they had. You've mentioned too many of them. That was third on your list in terms of there. Negotiation and contracts being very painful was number 2. And I think, if I'm right in thinking, that's the kind of, well, first of all, yeah, it's the T's and C's, which can be horrific sometimes, but also that concept that the other, somebody else has got a better price than you, which is just also
it is a bit that can be galling, especially less so now, but when we were much smaller, that I really did feel.
You feel like your hat nailed on,
Yeah.
didn't you? And it's
I think that there's no question that with size, we're able to negotiate a little bit more where we want to. But yeah.
Well, hopefully, if the kerfuffle effect has anything, it's that we hopefully will get a bit more than that.
Yeah.
And of course, the argument to suppliers is, look, they want to use more suppliers, but they do. It's not an infinite pot, is it? It's not this money tree that we're all always being taken at. So if we can get the fees down to a fairer level that allows us to use more suppliers, then that's going to be helpful, isn't it, for members?
Yes.
And then I think number 1 you said, and just reiterated there, is look, that the biggest pain by far, and this was reiterated by 46% of the people, it was that, look, the products just don't talk to each other, they don't integrate, they're not partnering, and I mean, it almost seems like agents have given up to a degree, because it's just as a fact of life, but it shouldn't really be, should it?
It would be heavenly, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be wonderful if all your prop tech could share data across all the platforms? It would just make. But the reality is.
What was it? Steve Jobs used to say, didn't he? If you don't cannibalise your own marketplace, somebody else will, won't they?
Yeah.
And that's a lovely sort of. I mean, he was talking about different sort of product streams, but I think it fits as well, doesn't it? And in the CRM world, the Salesforce who are the gorilla in the room, never really made it in there. But I think it would be fatuous to expect that they won't eventually do it.
Well,
and then you've got an ecosystem of 3,500 products there from day one,
yeah.
and everything else. They've got AI tools, but their problem has always been, and this is why it's never worked, is the product's been so complicated that you don't get the data in the right respect. So all the stuff we're talking about, that's great to have management information, referrals for other things.
Absolutely.
Email marketing don't work because frankly somebody hasn't put the name and the address in because it's just too difficult to do. So it's a really boring thing, but that data accuracy, that hygiene of your systems is critical.
Yes, yeah, it is. And we've just switched provider recently, and one of the things that struck me that's most powerful about the process of switching is that it's allowed us to change work practices. And there's a part of me that now thinks we really need to change software every 3 years.
Really?
Just in order to rationalise the way people
So let's
work.
detail that, because we spoke about it a little bit also. So you've moved to Jupix, I think, is fair to say, isn't it? And you spoke about sometimes it's not quite as flexible as the previous package.
Yeah.
But what you're actually saying is that does force you down some efficiency sort of workflows.
It does, it has done. And as we adapt...
You're the first person, by the way, that I think I'm absolutely certain, again, unique, who will be saying, I like changing software every 3 years.
Well, I'm obviously, for God's sake, let my team know that I'm even thinking of that.
Yeah.
Because some of them are still in counselling.
Data conversion, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
From the last change. But, no, I'm joking. Hopefully we won't need to. But I think that because change is happening so fast in our industry, if we do not adapt our work processes in keeping with the changes, we'll be another dinosaur left behind.
Yeah.
So, but changing software does make us think about the principles, why we're doing it this way, And that's been a really useful byproduct, well, the most useful byproduct of changing software.
Of actually having that there, okay. So obviously then we always have to come up with these weird and wonderful sort of thought pieces there. And I said, if you could summon the genie in the lamp, what's the one thing you would do to help your business at the moment that you could just change like that would have the most dramatic effect?
That's a good question.
I'm not, even I haven't oversold the fact that there's no genie coming, by the way, isn't there? The kerfuffle genie is going
to do to change, to make the business. Well, I'd love to be able to see into the future.
Yeah. So predictive data analytics.
I personally, I think, and a lot of people have disagreed with me. Personally, I think that blockchain, the impact of blockchain on the property sector, it's a tsunami that is still out in the ocean, and people, the water hasn't even gone out yet. It's
so
there.
No warning sign.
It's kind of, there's no warning sign, but I think that the changes that that's going to bring to the whole property sector is going to make, you know, the hybrid purple brick phenomenon look like
that is genuine, it's genuinely shaking up the marketplace, isn't it, in terms of, I mean, James Dursley famously talks about this, doesn't he? It's to a great degree, and I think the problem is so many agents have been promised tech that's going to change them, overnight, whether it's cryptocurrency or all the rest of it, and it never seemingly delivers. That actually ultimately you kind of just say, whenever manana it's going to be. But actually, if you haven't got one eye on that to stay ahead of it, you could be swept away by that wave, can't you?
Yes.
Easily.
So I mean, I think that for lettings, the contractual side is becoming more and more digitised. That's so. But the way I see the future-proofing this business is to concentrate on the property management.
Yeah.
Because that bit, someone needs a relationship with the property, their client, and the tenant. Someone needs the relationship. So they're not really property managers; they're actually relationship managers.
Do you call them that, or just as well?
We talk about we don't, because my client group want to see them as property managers.
Yeah.
But we are really keen on. We do a lot of work on the psychology of letting.
Okay.
So in fact, do you know anything about transaction analysis? This is the retired teacher.
This is the classic Simon Wellwell, I'll pretend. And actually, Homer Simpson is just a chimp in my head.
So when people rent a house, especially young people, subconsciously they think of home.
Yeah.
And they look for mummy and daddy.
Okay.
And the landlord and the agent become mummy and daddy. Subconsciously. It isn't a conscious. And then what happens is behaviour that's usually constrained to the family manifests itself in this commercial marketplace. So you have temper tantrums from tenants for little things because the plug's broken on their sink.
You only have to go to any review sites.
Why did you fix it? No! So then what happens is most agents, property managers in particular, adopt a defensive position because they've been exposed to this weird behaviour enough times to think, I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
So they go into defence mode, which is computer says no.
Yeah, no one's getting.
Sorry.
These,
No, can't help you with that. So once people in the relationship management game understand the psychology of what's going on subconsciously, and it makes it easy to manage the behaviour.
That's really interesting.
It's a bit off the wall side.
It is. But what I think, at least you've got a policy for a theory around it, haven't you, for dealing with that? Whereas everyone else, as I just said, laughingly, it's just on the review websites going,
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah.
Tenants complaining, that's tenants for you.
We work quite hard on reviews because again, we think the future will be peer-to-peer recommendation. That's for any product.
So talk me through that. So who do you do your reviews on? Facebook, Google,
anywhere we can. we're not proud because in the end they'll aggregate.
Well, oh God, I've got to stop this because I'm actually launching a project next month that does actually do that, but that's shameless. We'll cut that bit out. I think it's fascinating actually because the reviews are. It strikes me it's almost like where the portals were in 1.0. You've got reviews appear on Facebook. You've got them on Google, All Agents, FIFO, Trustpilot. You can be a hero up here, a villain down here,
that's right.
and trying to actually look at that reputation. Yeah, well,
I mean, Yelp reviews.
sorry, take that one. Yelp. I mean, genuinely, I had no idea, and I was looking at the amount of them out there. So I think it's that whole reputation management thing is an element there.
It is.
You fundamentally feel that is an important part.
It's going to become increasingly. I live in a village.
Yeah.
And anyone in the village.
If they've got a bad story, that's
No. If they want any service, or they go to the village closed group website and say, who can recommend a heating engineer? Who can recommend a plumber? Who can, and
that's right. Yeah.
And that is how people.
Essentially, you talk about that dynamic, and it's going on all the time, isn't it? On your Facebook. So.
And Generation Rent, whoever they are, they do talk to each other. We noticed that when we stopped doing renewal fees, we got a lot of the professional renters came to us because they knew that they wouldn't get charged every year. So our renewal rates went up to over 90%. Wow. But people talk to each other in groups, forums, whatever context.
It's a dynamic. I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about, the suppliers have been saying, I'm not so keen on sharing sort of pricing information or, actually even just reviews. But I was saying is, guys, you're crazy. This is going on already in those closed reviews on there. Far better to have it in a central resource where we can, you can control it or respond to a degree because you're outside of the conversation, aren't you, on those closed groups by definition?
Well, exactly. And we've had a taste of that as well because some of us. Anyway, we won't go there. They exist. They
absolutely do. Yeah. And so talk about you mentioned the guys at Finders Keepers as being a business that obviously helped you as well. Rising to the standards you've got. What are the businesses at the moment within the industry do you admire?
Well, I do. I think a lot of the portals are doing good things. I know. When we started, I was determined to have a website that was a virtual office, and we invested a lot of money in loading data into the website that then fed the portals. But it's now clear that the portals are king, and that's reality.
And you see that inexorable. There's nothing, there's not even people sometimes talking about will a Facebook come in and change the dynamics, but
it could do. Well, I remember do you remember Google Property?
Yes.
Well, we thought,
well, Google goes, that's it.
That's fantastic.
Google have turned their eyes to it. That's the
but I don't know. Well, I think they didn't pursue it because it didn't work in America, but it was certainly working here.
Yeah.
We had they were scraping Rightmove
to get all this.
The only problem was we had properties listed 3 times on there.
That's like back to that data accuracy, isn't it? I remember. I mean, actually, for me, Globrix was the map-based searching for me is how I did it.
But I see it that I remember meeting a guy who was building a portal for property in the 90s, late 80s and 90s. I think it was called Web to Let, and that first generation didn't really get traction. Well, I see the hybrid stroke online agents now, they're in first gen phase.
They're going to have to learn, aren't they?
Adapt. And I think it will, a lot of the contractual side is going to be digitised, whether it's in sales or lettings. My number of lettings next hasn't increased as much as the business because of, good lord, because of tech, DocuSign, because everything can be done.
But it's fair to say they're all doing more with more. You're doing more with less.
Yes, that's right.
Which is what technology ultimately is supposed to do.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the area where, counterintuitively, many would say, perhaps mistakenly, by making the decision to invest in property management side, we've reduced the number of units that a property manager looks after from, 140, 150, which was still below the corporate levels. I mean,
Yeah, sort of 200 and...
Foxtons and Countrywide at 180, 160.
Yeah.
We're now down to under 100, but we're getting them to do everything.
So you've deliberately pushed them the other way, but they, as you mentioned before, that's because they've got ownership.
Yeah, they've got ownership. The client knows that they go there to do the inventory, they do all the property visits, they do everything. They're right in touch with them. And I think that will help with our future proofing for the business.
That's interesting. Okay, and so we were talking before actually about property marketing, the important work they do. You're also in another group they call the Property Academy, which equally sort of kerfuffle. I remember that's Peter Knight's team, isn't it? Where you get to every couple of months and share best practice with some of the leading agents around the.
I've always found that invaluable. You know.
That getting out of the, that the phrase, it's again often repeated, isn't it? But working on the business, not in the business, and that really it sets that time aside to do that, doesn't it?
It does, but also by cross-pollinating with other exceptional agents.
Non-competitive.
Yeah, exactly. I always come away.
If you can't come back with a couple of ideas,
exactly. Yeah. No, it's great. It's really good.
Yeah, it's good. So I think you've just mentioned you've just again changed CRM systems. You were talking about obviously how that had kind of not forced you, but you'd have to change the parameters in terms of what you which. How does that extend out as well in terms of websites? I mean, do you think there's a lot more work to be done between the way I always talk about it as kind of the holy trinity? You've got CRM systems, you've got kind of the email marketing platforms here, and the website, and the frustration seems to be with most agents that actually, if they talk to each other, it's one directional. There doesn't seem to be. I mean, ultimately, they should be sharing information between each other, shouldn't they?
They should, and I dream of the day that comes. It will come. It's inevitable.
Do you think it will come from one particular company building it all themselves, or will it come from the other side, actually finally companies working together with better open APIs and integration?
I hope it'll be the latter, yeah.
Because then they can actually specialise, won't they? Because the risk with the first one, I think, is that they're going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, aren't they?
No, that's right. I think it needs to be more cooperation, discussion, and it's already started. Most of the property management software providers have got relationships with particular suppliers that they've API'd into.
Yeah.
That's the start. That's the first, that's the first level of the process. The next level will be where the customer can choose which, or customers will lobby for. I mean, the fixed flow has done very well with a lot of the software providers.
They have, yeah.
But to my mind, looking at their business, to their own disadvantage, the long-term growth potential, because they had such traction that they could have offered a whole load of other services that is the domain of the CRM systems at the moment.
I think they are starting to layer in a few more now, aren't they? I think I was talking to Raj recently, and they've got other plans to leverage, that as you just got that position. So
good.
Are they suppliers?
Well, we danced with them for a while, but because it seemed to work best when it was the only way that issues could be fed into our system. Because we're so customer focused, my property managers wouldn't insist. Someone called up or emailed in or whatever, and then you're at risk of double
multiple different ways.
Exactly, double entering.
I think just as a complete aside, I had the fortune or misfortune to literally the shower tenanted at the moment, and rented, and the showers were broken. So I went to that, and I was very excited. I went to the agent's website and I saw Fixed Flow on there. So I went on Fixed Flow and filled it in. By midday, I hadn't got anything, so I oh, this isn't working. So I'm ringing up the agent and I'm giving them all sorts of, almost trying to go into don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
And they actually said, no, we don't know who you are. And I said, we can't find it. I said, this is typical. I said, I'm absolutely certain. Anyway, the lettings director gave me a ring back about an hour later. He said, sorry, we just can't find your property. The property reference there. And I said, can you just give us it again? And I did. And then it was at that point I realised it was a different agent. So when you go back to the sort of fuckwittery that you have to do.
Everyone's kerfuffling.